Hi, everybody. It's Miss Connie, and
Hi, it's Sam.
yeah, so we're back for Sunday school. We're so glad that you joined us. So today we are going to be exploring somebody named Elijah and a widow. And so we're going to kind of look at that and see what does that mean. But Sam, I have something I want to share with you first, just to kind of get your thoughts. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see what I'm talking about here. So Sam, um, my question is, were you born in Maryland? Where are you from?
Yep, I'm from Maryland and I've lived in Harford County basically all my life.
So
Where are you
right
from,
here's,
Connie?
yeah. So right here's Harford County. You've always lived in the house that you're at and everything?
Yep.
Yeah. I have not, Sam. Now, granted, Miss Connie's a lot older, but I grew up here, which still is in Maryland. It's Washington County. But when I went to school, I went to another part of Maryland, but then eventually I did move to here. And a lot of times people do travel when they want to go places. So, like, for example, on the world map or on the United States map, here is Maryland, and Miss Connie's oldest daughter, Natasha, she has moved all the way to California. She's on the other side of the country now. Okay. Because that's where her job is. So it makes sense for her to go all the way over here. But there are some people that might live in Germany or in England, and they might move to the United States. Or maybe we have someone in the United States that moves over there. So it's okay to move. And it's kind of the idea that we travel because we usually have a purpose for traveling. So we're going to hear about that in our story today. And oh,
There's
Sam,
a
what do you think
lot
of this?
there is a lot of ways you can see warnings in your everyday life.
Really?
For example, you can hear while you're driving on the road, you might hear a police car.
Oh,
Miss Connie, do you know what that is?
gosh, it kind of sounds like a smoke alarm or a fire alarm.
Yeah, that's another type of warning you can have. You can also see stop signs or like deer crossing signs when you're driving on the road. Can you think of
Hmm.
any warning signs that you see in your everyday life?
Gosh, I'm thinking of some that you might see at school or even here at school. So, warnings are things to keep us safe and tell us about something that's coming. You know what, Sam? I'm thinking of sometimes I'm watching TV and all of a sudden this sound will come on and then an alert will come down on the bottom, maybe telling me that there's a hurricane or a tornado or some kind of weather warning. Have you ever seen those?
Yeah, I have. And when you're at school, you might hear the fire drill alarm, which is a warning for the fire that might happen.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So, you know what? Here's the neat thing is that we're talking about all of these technology type of warnings, but in our story today, we're actually going to be hearing about a person, and his name is Elijah. Okay. And I know that kind of looks like a weird spelling, but if everyone could say Elijah with me, he's going to be our main focus today. And in this story, Elijah is a prophet. And I know a lot of times in church, we hear the name prophet or hear the words prophet. You might think to yourself, I don't even know what a prophet is. So, Sam, can you tell us a little bit more about what a prophet is and what they do?
A prophet is someone that is like a messenger from God, and they help to teach others about his ways and what he has done for people, and he God has sent them down to help out people and so they can learn and about God and what he does for everybody.
Hmm. So, like, I see on the slide here that it says it's kind of like God tells the prophet tells the people so that it happens. So it's kind of like a game of telephone. One person tells another, that person tells another, so that the job gets done. So, you know what? I think of a prophet, it's almost like an angel on earth, right?
Hmm.
Doesn't that kind of sound, huh? All right, well, that sounds like a pretty important job. Hmm. All right. Well, We are going to get ready to watch a movie. It's a short little clip about Elijah and the widows. So sit back, relax, and let's see what happens.
Today, I'm going to tell you the story about a widow. A widow is a woman who has lost her husband. This widow lives in the town of Zarephath, and she has a son. In her town, it hadn't rained in a long time. Even the stream nearby had dried up. And because of that, a lot of people in the town had no food to eat. One day, with her stomach growling with hunger, the widow went out to gather sticks. She wanted to start a fire so that she could bake one last loaf of bread with what little flour and oil she had left, so that she and her son could eat one last meal and die. As the widow passed through the town gate, a stranger called and asked her for some water. When she was going to get the water, the stranger asked her to bring him a bit of bread too. The widow was shocked. She might have been thinking, didn't you realize that there was no food? Am I supposed to share what little I had left with a stranger? The widow then replied to the stranger saying that she doesn't have any bread. All she had left was a little amount of flour and olive oil. The hungry widow didn't know that the stranger was Elijah, who is God's prophet, and the widow was chosen to help Elijah to survive the famine. God's prophet is a man chosen by God to help the people communicate with God before Jesus came. The widow didn't know what to do because she only had enough left for one last meal for herself and her son. Elijah told the widow not to worry and to go make bread for him first. Elijah assured her that God promised that there will be more than enough until God sends rain. While she was walking to her house, 1,000 questions must be running through her mind. The flour and the oil will not run out, but who will fill it? Should I really share the last bread I have with him? Will God really provide? After making the bread for Elijah, she peeked into her jar, and she was shocked. There was more flour. Then she peeked into her jug, and there was more oil. And every day after that, there was enough flour and oil, just as what God told Elijah. Sometimes it is hard to share what we have, especially when we don't have enough. The widow was afraid to share her last meal with Elijah, but she did it anyway, and God blessed her. You can be kind, just like the widow too. Let's learn to be kind and generous by sharing and being a blessing to the people around us.
Okay. So, you know what I find kind of interesting there, Sam, is that, you know what? That kind of Elijah's the one that is moving around, like we talked about in our map. And he's the prophet that we talked about. And the interesting thing is what kind of warning was he bringing to the widow, though?
I saw that Elijah was bringing the warning of that God will always provide and that there's no need to worry because you're safe with God.
Yeah, if you remember in the video, geez, the woman said that, I'm going to have enough food to just make one last loaf of bread and then my son and I will die. What a horrible thought. And so Elijah was coming and he was the messenger saying, hey, you need to think about this. Trust me and trust God when I say that if you feed me first, God will bless you. Now, I don't know about you, Sam. I think I'd be a little alarmed if I used up all my flour and then I looked back in my container and it was filled all over again like magic. Wouldn't that be
Yeah,
pretty cool?
that would be awesome.
That would be really awesome. So, gosh, Sam, looking at this cookie here, I haven't had dinner yet and I'm pretty hungry. Sam, are you eating something? What are
Yeah,
you
it's my
eating?
last pretzel,
What? Sam, I love pretzels. Hey, can you share some with me?
but it's my last one.
Sam, you've known me for how long and you're not even going to share your pretzel? That makes me feel
Uh,
kind of sad. So what did we learn in our story today, though?
We learned that it is hard to share with other people that you may not know, or even if you do know them for a long time. But sharing is the right thing to do, and God will always have your back.
Yeah, even when it's something that you absolutely love, like pretzels, right? All right. Well, what I'm going to have us do is we are going to make a bread and basket craft. And so I'm going to unshare real quick so that I can show you what this is going to look like. Okay, so what I've done is I got two paper plates, and what I did was I inverted one, and then I got a stapler, and you can use tape if you want, and I stapled all the way around the bottom half, so you can see that I kind of took this and you can ask someone at home to help you out. And then notice what I did. So I left the top portion kind of open. I'm going to take a pen and I'm going to stab inside so that now I've got a little hole, because look what I can do with my scissors now. I can kind of stick it inside, and then I'm going to cut. Look what I'm doing here. I'm going to cut kind of halfway so that this is going to be the mouth of my basket. So if I look, I can come in here and say, you know what, I want to cut a little more here. So now, oh my goodness, look, I've got a little basket that I can carry. But you know what, Sam, I have nothing to put in my basket.
You can put some
So
apples in
what
your basket.
I'm going to do is, and you know what, I like to have some weird looking stuff here. So I'm going to make, I've got green paper. And usually when you think of green bread, you're not usually thinking good stuff. But you know what? I'm going with maybe it's mint flavored. Who knows? Okay. So I've got my, it kind of looks like corn though, doesn't it? So I'm going to draw the three little things here. So it looks like, you know, I'm putting something in there. So here's a couple of my loaves of bread in my basket. And oh, you know what I really love?
What?
I love muffins. Do you love muffins?
Muffins are very good.
Yeah, right. And I wonder if there's a thing such as like pistachio muffins. I don't know if there are. I can't say it. Wow, this kind of looks like broccoli. You know what? If I draw this down here, maybe it looks a little bit more like a muffin. So I'm going to stick that inside of my basket as well. So it's really showing me that God is going to provide. And then for my verse, you'll see that it says the jar of meal. Now, meal back then was just, it was kind of like cornmeal or flour, was not emptied, neither did the jug of oil fail. And that's from 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 16. So this is our craft. And of course, if you want to decorate it all up and, you know, put little flowers and little, you know, whatever, have at it, folks. You know, do whatever makes you feel good with decorating your little basket. Okay, so you can see however you want to do that. So that's a fun craft that'll just kind of remind us that God is always providing us. And in our story, we were talking about flour and oil and how it just magically was provided because God promised that it would be there. So let's go back to our presentation and see what else we have here. Oh, Sam, I think we have something good coming up here. So let me go right here and, oh, Sam, what is that?
Sounds like something fun is coming up. Here is a word search. If you're watching this on the YouTube video now, you can pause it and you can use your finger to trace the words in the word search, and you can use it to find all the words that are below. Like you can find Elijah, or you can find prophets, which we learned about earlier. And you can also find things like the oil and the bread we just talked about.
I love it. You know what? And our little smiley guy there, I love how he's pointing his finger to show us just, you know, just trace it on there. It's totally fine. I love that. Okay, So, and that, you know what, Sam, that's a really good review of our story today, because we really want to make sure that we're watching and listening for those warning signs that God sends us, right? Because Elijah was kind of like a warning to that widow. Okay. So we're going to wrap up with a prayer, but it's a motion prayer. So we're going to stand up, and my hope, and Sam's going to do this with us too. So we're going to see if you guys can do this with us. So I'm going to stand way back in the hopes that you can see. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through it first. So first we're going to say, God of creation. Do you see how I'm doing my arms like that? And then it says you send us warnings. So it's almost like I'm throwing out my arm to say stop. Okay. And then the next one's going to say you send us blessings. And this is where I'm kind of holding my other hand out like I'm asking for something. Okay. The next one says so that we can live with others. Now, I want us to pretend that we are in a Sunday school classroom and we put our hands out and we're going to hold somebody's hand. Okay. With both hands. So I'm pretending I'm gripping somebody's hands. And then it says, and love others. So this is the sign for love. So we're going to say love. And then when it says, give us your words to share, I want you to pretend like you're shouting. And then the last one is that we're going to put our hands to our ears and say, and ears to hear when you have a message for us. And then we're going to sign, amen. So that's where, and I'm going to get up close here. You do the sign for A. I always say, make it a fist. And then bring that little thumb over to the side, and you're going to pound it right on the other side, okay? So are we ready? We're going to do this. We ready, Sam?
Yep.
Okay, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. God of creation, you send us warnings. You send us blessings so that we can live with others and love others. Give us your words to share and ears to hear when you have a message for us. Amen. Guys, that was fabulous. Sam, I had so much fun learning about Elijah and the widow. What about you?
So did I. Today was awesome.
Yeah, you know what? So I'm always going to remember how important it is to look for warnings, that we want to make sure that we're looking for those prophets of God, that we know that it's important for us to share, but more importantly, Sam, that God's going to provide for us no matter what, right?
Yep. He'll always have our back.
Absolutely. All right. So, Sam, I think we come back in the middle of December, which is so exciting because what is that close to?
Christmas.
I'm so excited. So it'll be fun to come back, and then we'll see what our lesson is then. All right. So, Sam, it's always a joy. Everybody, we'll see you later. Okay. Have a great night. Bye.
Yeah.